I asked that everybody who's here, sign in, so that we have your contact information over there. Thank you very much.
And actually sign into the appropriate application, please.
You guys want to grab a couple of chairs? They're over here stacked up, so you don't have to stand for a long time. So I'll call this meeting to order. We'll go over the agenda, the rules of procedure, and then talk about interested parties. The agenda today is that we have a continuation from June 25th, that continue it to July 9th, to today for a request for the parking lot and access at 87 Vermont Route 15. We have two items of new business. One is a request by John Barnard for a final plat review of a minor 2-lot PUD located at 16 to 18 Snipe Island Road in the rural agricultural residential zoning district, and a request to the DRB by Martha Prince for a final plat review of a minor subdivision at 150 Lee River Road in the village zoning district. We'll have approved some minutes from July 9th, then we'll adjourn and go to the deliberative session. So, just start here for a second. So this is a quasi judicial meeting. So this is a legally standing meeting, and I will first I'll make sure that I swear everybody in who's going to speak, and I'll say the oath, and then the people would say I do. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury. I do. Okay, thank you very much. So then we're going to discuss what an interested person is. Those are the purpose of defining an interested person is legalese around who has standing for appeals of any decision that we might make. So interested persons are those who in Vermont law have the right to appeal an act or decision of the DRB. The applicants, the interested persons include the applicant, or if the applicant does not own the property, the person entitled to the property. A person owning or occupying property in the immediate neighborhood of a property that is the subject of a decision or act who can demonstrate a physical or environmental impact on the person's interest under the criteria reviewed, who alleges that decision or act will violate the municipal plan or bylaw. And then any 10 persons, either voters or landowners, who by signed petition to the DRB allege that the decision or act if confirmed will violate the municipal plan or bylaw. The petitioners must designate one person to serve as a representative. So many members of the public may be interested in the application, and only those people statutorily defined as interested persons may appeal a decision of the zoning officer or DRB. If an interested person fails to make a timely appeal, they are bound by that decision. Only those interested persons who have participated may appeal a decision. We entered into that proceeding in environmental court. Participation consists of offering through oral or written testimony, evidence, or a statement of concern related to the subject. If there were to be appeal, what we decide, the DRB does not determine who is an interested person. That is part of the appeal process, but we do need to establish who participated. So we ask for two things. Please sign in on the sign sheets, or if you're on video, please provide your contact information in the meeting chat or by email to Chris. And then secondly, we ask when you speak in the meeting, please tell us your name loud and clear so that we can record it in the meeting minutes. So the first item we have is the request for site plan review for the construction of a parking lot and access.
So everybody knows.
I did.
Oh, you did?
Started with that one.
I didn't hear him say I did. Okay.
One of them said that.
This is not intention.
Okay, I changed the order to make sure we are looking at it. It was that right, but thank you. So this is a continuation of previous two meetings, and we've heard discussion about the concerns about safety and request about people about having this business at all on the road. What we've continued it for is the discussion about the floodplain level at the proposed location. So tonight's discussion and comments will be restricted to the part that we're discussing today, which is the floodplain level. So we don't really want to go back over the other. We've heard the comments, and we still have all of those, but we're talking about the floodplain level for the new proposed parking lot at 87 Vermont Route 15. Who's going to present? Okay, if you could. Over here. That mic up.
Yeah, over here, Carl.
Okay.
Presentation table. And I have this plan, I also have the FEMA plan, and so the other transpose plan, so I don't know if you want anything specific, you can let me know.
Yeah. Carl Marshall, Old Erie Burke. We were here last couple of meetings ago. We had a continuation. It wasn't intentional. We were dealing with the state. Matter of fact, we got an email back from the state today at 4 p.m. and basically they said the elevation of 612 is the FEMA elevation. I responded back, just some basic comments about constructability. The plan on sheet 4 that we resubmitted, it's got a little hatch in the bottom right corner. I don't know if you want to put sheet 4 up.
Oh, this is sheet 4, isn't it?
That's sheet 1.
So when you say 612 is the elevation.
Yeah, 612 is
what
the
elevation?
FEMA base flood elevation.
Is 612 is what FEMA has established 612 feet being the elevation, the max elevation?
Well, I mean, I guess you can look at it both ways and say, is it the max or the min? But it's sort of an elevation that we really don't want to, sort of impact. And so that's our lowest elevation
612 is the lowest elevation that
of the base flood, that we don't really want to impact any further. So what that plan shows right there is a ramp. And we calculated a volume of 91 cubic yards of material. So we sent that to the state, and they said, we basically indicated to them, we'd like to offset that 91 cubic yards in the sort of purple shade on the lower right of the plant. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to take material out equivalent to, so we exceeded it a little bit. And that blue shade is basically taking out an extra 2 inches of material. So what we had talked about in the plans is putting in 12 inches of gravel. And so what we do is we dig out 14 inches and then we basically put 12 inches back. Fabric and 12 inches of material, 12 inches of gravel, and that'd be the parking lot. And so we communicated back with the state. They were like, well, the state's comment was basically, well, how do you show that transition? And I basically relayed back to them, if it's only 2 inches, that's a plan that's to the nearest foot. I mean, it's a plan with contours to the nearest foot. And so what I explained to the state was our intention would be to go around the perimeter and do a 2-inch transition, really just to satisfy that requirement that we're actually taking out more material, than the ramp is going to produce to achieve the 10% grade that's shown on the profile there. Because really, it's steeper than that, and so just like we showed last time, the intention is to fill that portion and offset it by lowering the blue section in the lower right to offset the area of 91 cubic yards to I think it's 112 in the blue section. So the state basically gave us the okay today in an email. I responded back. That's really all the new information that we have.
Okay, so can you show us the floodplain map?
It's really hard to see, but I can tell you right now, the easiest way to tell is if you look on plan left on the pink area, if you zoom into that pink area down below on the lower right, yep. That, the far left side is where the 612 starts. So it goes 6, I think it's yeah. So that's the natural 612 that we're filling. And the extremity to the right, plan right of that plan is the limits of the fill. That's going to be about 90 cubic yards to construct the ramp. So we're only concerned about the area that's 612.
So can you show us the 612 contour all the way around the parking lot?
I can.
Okay,
So
Thank you.
if Chris goes over to the left of the left side of that. Right there, that's the 612. So if you follow that up, that's the 612 right there. Yep. So if you follow that contour, that's the 612.
and on the other side,
Essentially, it's pretty much all 612. There's, little minor changes here and there, but it's relatively flat.
parking
That's
lot
why there's no
will be
contours.
at the 612 or slightly above the 612 lot.
Correct.
Okay, and can you show us the ramp for the parking lot? The
Yeah,
ramp for the driveway?
the ramp is, those contours that you show right there that show, they're basically the 10% grade, so those are 1 on 10.
There's a profile.
Yeah, that's the.
So it's ramps all the way to the road?
No, there's a 3% grade at the top for, for the transition. So that cars, don't have to be at a 10% grade.
And how long is the 3%
I think
grade?
it's basically a car, like 15 feet. I mean, we haven't changed any of that stuff from the initial, review. The only thing we did is we.
I don't see 15 feet there. 1 inch equals 20 feet.
Well, we can, you can condition it. But- So I'd have to get the plan to scale and then get it scaled.
That would say, if that's 15 feet, that would say that's a 150-foot driveway.
Well, they're stationing at the bottom. I think that first dash line is 50, so you're about 15 of the 50. So if you, I don't know, plan up a little bit, you can see that. Let me just see this. So it goes 0, 50, 1, 130. So you got 130 feet. So that 3% is the first 15 feet. I don't know if you can just pull it up a little bit, then you can see the stationing. I don't know if that would help, envision it.
What do you mean pull it up?
Like, so you can see the numbers like on the bottom right here, Chris, of the profile. You just, yep. I mean, I don't know. But anyways, you can see the 0, 0 plus 50, 1, and then we show 130 feet, because that's the area that before we transition back.
And can we see your plan for the road, where the parking is going to be on the road?
Sheet 1, I mean? Yeah, we can go back to sheet 1.
There's still parking. I just want to make sure that everyone's clear as to where the road parking will won't be.
Yep.
And where the crosswalk will won't be.
Hold on a second.
I think what you want to talk about is the existing spaces. And
We'll
there's
talk about
actually-
your final plan where there will and won't be parking on the road.
So we want to talk about that, and I think maybe Dan or Paul, I don't know about that.
Well, as proposed, there's no parking on the road.
Right.
The proposal is in front of us is basically the parking lot. No parking on the road or along the road.
So
I believe that's correct. I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but
But we talked about in the staff report, I think we talked about boulders, so I think just for clarification with the owners here and the new owners, I think it'd be appropriate maybe to talk about it briefly and then maybe clarification for the board, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. I think Dan wants to speak.
make sure you just introduce yourself.
Sir. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Phelan. My wife Jessica over there, we recently bought Palmer Lane Maple. as many of you know,
I'm a little confused why you're speaking.
we're talking about,
You're not the landowner, right?
I am not the landowner.
Well, he's
You own the business today?
I am a business today. Correct.
Okay, so you're the business owner, but you're not.
That's correct. Yes. So yeah, there is a bit of gray area there, I would say. Yeah, essentially, well, are we talking, would you like me to address the parking scenario?
Yeah.
Okay. So essentially there's been a couple things batted around back and forth, over the time here. Parking on the road, essentially, this was to alleviate that, obviously, and get people off the road. As Carl mentioned, there's a couple things discussed. There are a handful of spaces that are on the opposite side of the road from Palmer Lane Maple, that we discussed if we were granted permission to do the parking area, then we would be willing to sacrifice those so there wouldn't actually be parking on the road. If that were the end game, just to, compromise, we're obviously this is all kind of, going back and forth. And first and foremost, we want to do what's right, as best we can with everybody, neighbors, certainly included in that. Now, the last time meeting came up with parking, to grant those parking spots to us for winter use potentially, simply because we will have events, Maple Open House Weekend, different things that will attract people to the business for a short period of time, a weekend of previews here and there, something along those lines where, the handful of extra parking spots beyond the 6 that we have on our property or the Palmer property, on the other side of the road would be nice to have in the winter. So therefore we wouldn't need to plow and need to really interrupt that space in the winter, and therefore leaving that whole area alone, which again, depending on who you ask or who you talk to, that would be beneficial in a couple different ways of not to have to worry about, plowing and what have you. Although it wouldn't be every day, it wouldn't be consistent. And just to have those few extra spots where we need them, that wouldn't be, again, a daily thing.
I just want to ask a clarification question. We mentioning winter and in those areas and plowing, you're talking about the proposed parking lot, or you're talking
Correct.
about, okay,
Yeah.
not parking along the road. Okay, so
Correct.
basically,
Yeah, so like if we had a weekend, we were expecting, a handful, quite a few people maybe for a busy weekend or whatever the event might be, then, yeah, we would need to plow that.
or season parking for the lot.
And that's really it. We hadn't really come to terms on really anything specific, but that was kind of our thoughts and conversations. Again, compromise is gonna be, huge here, I think. And we're certainly willing as the Palmers are to work something out that makes sense for people. We can have it make sense.
So on this, what is above what's on this map, there'd be no parking along the road during the busy season above what's labeled as Old Plumper Road, right?
That's correct.
But you will continue to have units. Can you show us the 6 spots below Old Pump Road that are available?
In this area here.
Yeah, those are the ones that we own that are at the barn and the physical property, right? And then directly across essentially are the other spots that we use for parking now per permission from Frank, from the Von Turkoviches. And that being said, just bringing them up, I have spoken to Frank and recently, and he may or may not be on the Zoom call right now. And with his blessings, obviously wanted to introduce ourselves as new owners and just kind of touch base. And he is fully open to supporting this plan in any capacity that makes sense and that warrants. And he is on board for us to use basically what we would like to and what helps out the neighbors and everybody else. So, trying to kind of just work with everybody, and he's certainly been great for us as new business owners, but also to the Palmer, I think, just to have that flexibility and just, kind neighbor to have as well.
So on this plan, it states existing gravel parking, kind of where the walkway is, in between the walkway and the driveway to the new parking lot, that's going away, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
So that should not be.
I mean, that was what I would just say, if
Yeah,
it were to go away, it goes away, but if it were to stay, then we could use it in the winter and not have to worry, yeah.
Can we see the detail for the two other things with the crosswalk and the fence around the property?
There's no I mean, there is no, what you're seeing is what's been provided, so. Staff notes reflect that basically a crosswalk should be incorporated here. There's an existing, temporary fence has been put up in this area here, offering separation, and staff's recommendation is that basically the nature of that fence be removed and a more applicable fence as a split rail or something like that be put in, which is more in the character of the neighborhood and the area, and it still provides the separation for, the roadway and the people, on property.
So one more question, another question for Larry Burke is, on April 2023, you guys did a traffic study?
I'm actually, I didn't review it at all, but, I didn't do it, but, yeah, truthfully, I don't know. I know that we're not, I know in the staff report, I know it brushed on it, that's why I didn't review it, like, I feel pretty strongly that this isn't an expansion, like, we're just gonna continue business as usual, so it kind of insinuates in the traffic, in the, staff report that a traffic study really isn't merited. If we find out did a traffic study, it's gonna come back and tell you the same thing as status quo. I mean, I know there's a little more traffic, obviously, when the creek stands open, but that's how it is now, so we're not really proposing any change.
Incredibly insensitive of you to not appreciate the community concerned about traffic, to not have gone back. and
Well,
read
no,
our
we
traffic
wanna-
report.
We-
You guys did a traffic report within 5 years. It's important for the community and for our process that you guys did the report and the results said.
I apologize
Okay.
that you feel that way. I just want to be frank that I looked at the staff report and I didn't dig in the file to review it from a few years ago.
And just one more question. So this will go to Act 250 after this?
This will go, it has Act 250 jurisdiction, so it would require an amendment to the Act 250, correct?
So it's Act 250. Why is it Act 250? Because
Because it has prior jurisdiction.
have prior jurisdiction. All right, we have more questions from the board?
Yeah, I was curious if the applicant gave consideration to the request of potentially realigning the driveway coming out.
Yep.
And if you could address that.
That took a long time. That probably took a couple of weeks. I sent a red line sketch moving it over 10 feet. And then when we were asked to add the property lines, the property line is literally right on the right side of the road, as you can see. And it shows a lot better in Chris's report, with the blue line proximity. Like if you look at the staff report that Chris did a nice job on, you can see the line even more clearly on, I guess, this piece right there.
So the red line we're looking at here is the property line.
Actually a black line. Really hard to see on this plan. If you zoom in, there's a black line like cutting right on the right side of it. And that's the lot 4 for the, yeah, that's the lot 4 for the post office. So when we moved it over 10 feet, I sent it over to Paul Palmer, and he reviewed it with Bob Turkovich. And he came back and said like 10 feet was gonna put it on, lot 4 and, they're leasing the property is my understanding, and feel free to chime in if anything's incorrect, Mr. Von Turkovich, but, really our intention was all the road to be on, off lot 4, and then, the only thing that would be on it would be the path. So that's why we left it where we did. And then we talked briefly about, in the email back to Chris, about, the fact that we're kind of honoring daylight hours. And so, lights and shining lights and stuff like that coming out of that parking lot really shouldn't impact the property adjacent. for across.
So it has not been moved.
It's not been moved, that's correct. We moved it and then we decided that in the final version that we were gonna leave it the way it was.
Yeah, essentially, as it is already, if we were to do that, it's all leased land, obviously from Von Turkovich's, if we were to get involved with doing that, we would need to submit to the government to get approval from them because it's their leased land, et cetera, et cetera. So we figured that would be, probably better avoided since that would probably take quite a long time. And also we're already in a position where, obviously as new owners, we're just trying to come up with a solution. As it stands now, if this goes through, as kind and generous the Von Turkoviches are with the land and letting us, use it for this purpose or that, he was clear that if down the road, it doesn't, he plans to develop, then that may likely go away, and we would be kind of short on that one. Give the short end of the stick, I guess, if you will.
Thank you. I have another question. Back to the FEMA discussion. Can you confirm that if FEMA has regulations around parking lots in the floodplain and what those regulations are, and as it pertains to that, is the parking lot considered an impervious area?
So basically, it is definitely considered an impervious area because it's low-lying land. There's a couple of things that I can explain, I think, hopefully, clarify things. So one, anything below the 612 are essentially like filling in the 612 is looked at as negative. And so that's why we want to make the adjustments to the cuts and fills. But I think the answer, or I think what you're asking is essentially, what does that 612 mean? And when we reached out to the state, we just sent them the plans and said, our intention is to put in a parking lot that's essentially the same grade. And then we had some back and forth and discussion with the state. And what we came up with was, in order to offset that 90 plus or minus cubic yards, we would actually take more material out so that it would be sort of an even number. So we take out more material in the low-lying area to account for the ramp that's being created to create a nicer grade to build a road so people can go up and down. So we were presenting that to the state in a very clear fashion. Like, our intention is to put in this parking lot, and in order to offset or mitigate the fill, this is what we're willing to do. And they wrote back today that they said that this is a reasonable solution to the problem of the 90 cubic yards of fill. And I guess I got to be completely transparent. Like the 90 cubic yards, like we're not asking for like thousands of yards. Like 90 is a very small number. But I didn't want to completely dismiss it and say, well, it's kind of, like not worth pursuing because nobody wants to hear that. We got to offset 90 cubic yards. We're going to take out 112 in the bottom. So it's a little bit more. Now, if you really want to get into the weeds of it, like the state asked, like, what is that transition? Well, the transition is going to be a 4-foot cleanup bucket. We're going to go around the perimeter. It's 540 feet long if you go all the way around that perimeter. We're going to take out that 2 inches, and 2 inches is this much. We're going to cuff it 4 feet wide all the way around, and that's going to take out another 7 cubic yards. Like I knew that going in. We didn't present it that way to the state because we didn't know if they were going to go for it. When we found out today that it was an acceptable, I actually wrote them an email back, but they didn't respond to my email back. But now we're talking semantics. Like there is agreement, we're all set. We're just going to iron out the sort of like nitty gritty, but essentially, if it's not 112, it'd be 119. That's what it will be. 7 cubic yards more.
Understood.
We'll take out.
And they don't give any guidance on impervious surface within the floodplain?
They don't talk about impervious surfaces. They're strictly, like impacting the floodplain. That's it. I mean, is the impervious surface gonna result in more, like more runoff? Yes. But because we don't need a state stormwater permit and we're gonna take out more material than what we're putting in for the ramp, I mean, they don't really have any sort of jurisdiction on the runoff portion.
So are
really
you
just the fill portion?
Are you acknowledging that there will be additional impact because because of impervious surface?
Well, there'll be more runoff. I mean, every project that creates an impervious surface, there's gonna be more runoff, but we've already reached out to the state and it's infinitesimally smaller than, you know, the acre threshold, so it doesn't even necessitate it. The other thing is, I did talk to Kyle on the phone. This is probably 7 phone calls ago, but very nice, very understanding, and I told him flat out, like, what if we were to, you know, even do more, like, could we create an impoundment, what somebody would consider a pond? He's like, well, at the meeting last, we saw that sometimes, whether it be 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, we're gonna anticipate some flooding. It'll be a day or two, we can't use this parking lot. We know it. The owners know it, the new owners know it. But when we talked to the state about it, they were like, well, as long as you know that. But when I talked to Colin Ash from the state, he's like, well, Carl, I mean, if you create an impoundment and a big storm comes, then it'll just fill it in. And I'm like, possibly. It's pretty flat out there and there's not a lot of fast moving water. Likely, it would probably be fine, but we could redig it. But then they pretty much said verbally that they'd rather not us do that. So I'd be in favor, and I don't think there'd be anybody who opposed necessarily the new owners if we were to do that. But I'm kind of of the understanding that they'd rather we did not do that. That's where we're at. So that's why we don't show any really stormwater features. That's ultimately the reason. And we don't need a stormwater permit, so, you know, we're not really under any obligations to do so. I actually reached out and asked that question to Kyle because I was trying to be proactive and do a little extra if we could, but certainly don't want to do anything that's going to disrupt the corridor people or, you know, essentially the flood, nor the stormwater folks. So we reached out to all.
Thank you.
Is that a question about you said the boundary line? That there's lots?
Well, you see that little line, like.
No, I see it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just, the town apparently approved it. I saw the approval with town years ago for a subdivision. But I did look in the state file, you know, the Act 50 file. It doesn't.
Doesn't reflect it.
Yeah, is that something that's gotta be done at the same time, or is it gonna matter?
Justin, that's a great question.
It's gonna come up.
It's gonna come up. It may or may not come up, but we're gonna show the lots as presented here with the lot lines, and then we're just gonna say our impacts are really. Like, there's no reason for us to dissolve them, because we don't know what'll happen in the future, and somebody could say this is transient or, you know, temporary use. I mean, somebody could say that. I mean, you could have it alluded to.
No, it's just a question of
I
whether
understand.
it really does it really matter if that access was shifted? You know, does it really matter? You know,
Yeah.
I know the intent is to
Yeah.
keep the post office the least area.
Yep.
You know, but
Truly, I know that, you know, it was moved 10 feet. We had a red line sketch and we were like, well. I mean, that was the topic between the owners and the new owners and the, you know, the current owners, however you wanna, you know, the Palmers and Dan Palin and the Von Turkovich. And I sent the sketch and I said, really, like, I don't wanna be the moderator, like, I don't wanna tell you what you should or shouldn't do, like, you just tell me whether you want me to move it. And it was decided, we're gonna keep it where it is. So I said, okay. But that's a great question, and I think it'll be a topic, like they'll talk about it at the Act 250.
it may not matter, it may, I don't know.
Yeah, I really, that's a great question. I really don't know how that's gonna pan out. But I think we'll show the property lines because that's what's reflected in the state file, but it's just like you said, you go to a state file and you look at property lines and a lot of times they're not updated to the town, you know? So that's not uncommon.
Council board,
But that'll be on my list of the Act 250, so now I can just write that down. Another thing to look at.
Can impress them with that knowledge.
anything else to cover?
I know that's been covered.
And we covered the planting schedule. Last time.
Yep.
Right, we saw
That
that.
was landscape plan and
Landscape
proposal,
plan
and
was presented last.
that's reflected in this plan as well as a plant list.
I don't have any other questions.
May I ask a question? The board,
You guys have any other
Actually, we can have you come up here so they can be picked up by the recorder, please. You may want to tell, I would do go back and forth.
Okay. So you'll ask the questions to the board. The board will collect all the questions.
My question is actually to the engineer.
Yeah, you can ask the questions to the board and then we'll get all the questions and then get them.
Okay, regarding the driveway and the property line, if I'm understanding this discussion correctly, we didn't want to move the driveway further to the south because then it would be on the lot that's leased to the postal service. Is that correct? Yes. Why are the parking spaces along Old Pump Road that are on that lot, why are those not a problem?
Yeah, that's the question.
That's the question.
Okay.
If the postal service is okay with having those parking spaces there, why is it a problem not to move the driveway? Couldn't the driveway be where those parking spaces are now? My question.
It was Philip Albright?
Andrew.
Andrew, okay, thank you.
Sue Casser, I also live on Old Pump Road. I have two questions. One is the grade of the ramp. Just wondering if that is up to code in terms of people with disabilities being able to access that ramp. And if the disabled parking spots are then down on that new parking lot, or do they remain on the road? So that was one question, if that ramp is accessible. And the second is, it sounds like if there's a request to have some parking on the road during winter or when the parking lot floods, how is that going to be monitored? How will they keep people from parking there if those spots exist for the winter? What will keep people from parking there outside of winter or when the parking lot is flooded?
Leslie Dunn, 233 Old Pump Road. I have a question about the 612 line in this map and the first map that we looked at. Because when I look at those maps, I see that elevation running through many parts of the proposed parking lot. And I would like to have a more thorough look at that. Okay.
Any other questions?
What about the water, or the plan, Eileen House, 59 Old Pump Road. Before the board makes a decision on this, can the boundaries of this area be marked out with stakes? And a site visit by the board as well? I have, I can see this on the map, but I have no idea. I'm not very good at envisioning how far that is or how close or. And, yeah.
Steve House, 59 Old Pump Road. We have, again, we showed some pictures, we have some additional pictures from the flooding. And on the Zoom meeting, we have a UVM professor, Rebecca Daly, with a PhD in watershed sciences, floodplain dynamics and flood induction mapping expert. If we could show the pictures, if she could speak to that, if that's.
Sure.
Okay. This will be a little difficult because the back and forth,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, just hold on, please.
Okay. Yep.
if you have the credentials you have, it'd be good probably to get them submitted, so we have verification.
Sorry, say that again, to get what?
You've been held out to be a PhD and all those things, and it'd be good to get that information, so we have documentation that you are, just for the record. Okay?
Okay, yeah, I can state my position.
Well, no, send me the information so I can put it in the files.
I see, okay.
Representing.
Yeah, I can do that.
So where do you want me to start, Steve?
I guess with,
I have the pictures you gave me. You want me to use this now?
she's got some additional ones that came through, a couple of additional ones.
You really want to, okay.
Get that.
I can share my screen too, if that's helpful. I don't know if that's helpful at all.
Well, this is all new information, so it's, ideally it would have been. So,
Lights,
what are we looking for now, Steve?
what was it? Eileen, you need it, where'd she go?
Well, you
I think it's the
want to look at it?
827.
827, okay.
Oh. If you want to pull up one and,
Pull up anyone?
Yep.
Okay.
oh,
Oh, can you
So
see
these
that,
pictures
Rebecca?
we've seen already?
Rebecca, can you see that?
No, I
Yes.
see the site. I see the site plan still.
Here we go. How's that?
Oh, yep, there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, so some of the community members asked me to just speak to floodplain maps. I know that was sort of at question here. And kind of,
Actually, quick question.
yeah, go ahead.
Before, have you
Yeah.
done a site visit to the site?
I have not, no, sir.
You've not done a site visit to the site, and have you reviewed the plans prior?
I,
Yes,
no,
I mean,
so I
that's
can,
fine.
yeah, sorry.
No, I'm just trying to get some background just to see. So you're looking at the pictures for the first time and you're going to comment on the pictures. So we have a
Oh.
context of what you're doing.
Well,
Correct?
well, these pictures were sent to me earlier. I have seen them.
Okay.
And
Okay,
to be clear, I am not an expert and I don't know the details of this project in particular. I've seen where it's proposed, I've seen the site plans, I've seen these pictures. I have not visited the site. I think the only thing I can speak to is just my experience with floodplain mapping, my understanding of what FEMA floodplain maps are, additional information
Okay.
that we've seen, and just kind of from a scientific perspective, what the impacts are to sort of changing the surface of a floodplain. And that's all I can speak to, right? So I'm not trying to really make any commentary in particular about the site plans, and I think there's plenty of folks to comment on that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so the only thing I can say about this is that one of my team has developed floodplain maps for the state of Vermont, and I'm happy to share those. They actually line up really nicely with the FEMA maps. So often the FEMA maps aren't actually that accurate. We've seen that over and over. But sort of kind of taking a more broad look at this, a floodplain map and an inundation map is a best estimate. It's developed through a hydraulic model. Maybe some of the data is old. Some of the hydraulics might not be represented that well. And some of our best evidence are photos, right? And we've seen this over and over that some of our inundation maps or our floodplain maps don't quite accurately match. And yes, FEMA maps, have been vetted, and there are the regulatory tool that we have, the best regulatory tool we have. But I think, just coming at this from the perspective of, look, this site does flood seemingly more regularly than these maps might suggest. And that's common. It's really common for us to see this. So if we put that perspective there, right, that these do this area that's under consideration is likely to see floodwaters, right? Then we think about sort of what the impacts are of, changing the land cover. The floodplains serve a lot of functions for our communities and our watersheds. One of them, which has been spoken to, right, is sort of that flood resilience, right? Especially a floodplain like this can hold on to floodwaters really nicely, like that flat surface. That gradient of this river means that floodwaters that access that floodplain stick around and slow down that flood wave, protecting downstream communities. Changing the land cover to some degree is going to change those dynamics. I cannot speak without modeling that, right? I cannot speak to how impactful that is. Some of the state's regulations sort of deal with that, like, right, if you only do so much, we just assume that it's not going to have a huge impact. And I can't speak to that without fully modeling it, but just knowing that you change the land cover, you change those dynamics. Other functions include, right, capturing sediment and nutrients, improving water quality. Again, you sort of change the dynamics of the land cover, the vegetation, you're changing how much is captured on those floodplains to serve those functions. Other things such as groundwater recharge might be altered as well. And so those are sort of the only things I can really speak to. And I'm kind of in our additional, I just kind of want to note that, so we developed our own floodplain maps and those are publicly available, and I can send you the link to those through the VCGI website, which is Vermont Center for Geographic Information. And again, our floodplain maps show the 100-year floodplain, which is the FEMA regulatory floodplain matching. So it's fairly verifiable, but this area is within the 200 to 500-year floodplain, right? In our mapped floodplains again. And again, these can be wrong at times, but just sort of showing that this is not, even if it's not regulatory, it's still within an area, especially with our kind of changing hydrology that we're seeing, an area that is still likely to see floodwaters, as the folks that live on the street have documented. So I'll leave my comments at that.
This is Jeff York from the board. Does Act 250 have a different definition of or do they use FEMA as well?
I don't know. I'm not an expert when it comes to Act 250. The other sort of nuance with sort of floodplains, and I think there's some language specific to your town about this, is there's the floodplain, which is developed, identified, especially the FEMA floodplain, by where water inundates, right? So if water's coming up out of the river, where does it sort of land on the surface? But then there's also what we have river corridors for, to be thinking about kind of the area around the river that can be both a hazard, especially in our sort of higher gradient settings, where you might see erosion happening, but also that which influences sort of the dynamics of the river and the floodplain. So I can't speak specifically to Act 250 and the definitions within that, but I just wanted to put that out there too, about thinking about kind of the valley bottom, and how, it doesn't just stop right at that sort of deterministic line, the 612 line. Again, I understand, for regulatory purposes, it's a helpful line to know and to have for sure, but these processes don't stop at that regulatory line necessarily.
Does FEMA put out numbers every year? Do they do like a 2024, 2025 number? Is there?
No, this is one of my comments. So FEMA flood maps are often quite outdated, and in some areas based on contours from old topographic maps from the 70s, and they haven't updated them. Now, that is true across a lot of Vermont, and that's why I could say, this is what our research does. We look at some of these places and we compare them to our floodplain maps, and again, look at evidence on the ground and know that that is wrong. I don't know the specifics. I did look it up right before, and I think the current maps you have for your town are from 2011, so not that outdated, not like the
That's,
70s.
that's actually incorrect. The maps that have
Oh.
been provided to the board and stuff are actually 2025 maps that have just been released.
Okay,
So
the preliminary, so I was just gonna bring that up, that there is preliminary data. I think it's preliminary for the 2025 data sets that have been released, but maybe not.
Right, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
But they aren't updated regularly. But Vermont, I was about to say that Vermont is undergoing updates to their FEMA maps.
okay,
I'd just like to, can I just address that?
sure.
Because that, the floodplain map, the FEMA floodplain map that we found was approved, finalized June 30th, 2025. And that's what we've used in this plan.
All right, thanks. I just wasn't up to date. I didn't know if they came out every 6 years or every 6
No,
years.
it had been probably 20 years since they'd updated it.
All right, thank you very much.
Steve, there some other pictures that might be useful.
I think we've seen the pictures before. We've seen.
Okay. No, they're good ones.
We had time to find.
I think the April 2011 picture would be extremely helpful. It's the last one on the list.
That's your call.
Okay, yeah, sure. Show us the April picture.
Is April, oh geez.
You just got bigger.
Oops. April what?
No, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
April. Oh, no.
Last one. Yeah, that last one.
Okay.
So Rebecca, can you see that? I think that's
Yeah.
that's the map that they were referencing, or the picture, excuse me.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
And this is taken from the post office, like, there's a path that leads down into the field. And this is looking toward the river. I think, from the discussion, and I'm just gonna discussion I've heard already is, you're well aware that you're building the floodplain, and, you know, obviously that, they brought that up to you, but
That's the exact location.
yeah, you're building a flooded water, and it's gonna flood from time to time.
That is the
Okay, thank you very much.
So can I say something?
Come on up.
Can I?
If you have a question.
No, I just want to have to say this and get it off my chest here. I'm Jim Carew, 222 Old Pump Road. And I live on the side of the river, just on the other side of the river from this flood. And I'm hearing a lot of, it shouldn't do this, we can't tell it what it's gonna do. I live right on the river. So when you disturb this flood zone, it's gonna flood my basement, or potentially, it could. So can you tell me it's not going to? When you put this big apron in and you dam it up and then you put the non-pervert, whatever that word is to. Right, so it's not gonna soak in, it's gonna run off. Is it going to affect my home? That's my question. That's all I wanna know. You can tell me it won't, I'm happy. But I'd really hate to have that put in there and have my house taken on water. And I got pictures myself, I know you don't wanna see them. I don't have any room to move. The water comes up, comes under my deck. It's this far from the foundation, and it's worse now. So I just wanna make it clear that I'm going to take the brunt of this if it doesn't go your way. So that is a flood zone.
We all know water's coming up. We all know
It's gonna come up.
floods are getting bigger.
But you're messing with it.
I can't,
That's my,
no one can ever tell you what causes it, right? You know?
but you're messing with
Floods
it
are
now.
getting bigger. They're
Yep.
all gonna be bigger, right?
Right,
The lake's lower, but the floods are getting bigger.
but you're messing with it now. So that's my point. So you guys are potentially messing with it.
Uh-huh.
You can grin and you can smile, but I'm the one that's taking on the water. Steve, again, I just, so, kind of toward what Andrew had commented on the existing parking lot, but on the other side of the road. And, I actually saw Chris, and I can understand that there was some talk about possibly shifting the pedestrian parkway, because in my mind, and it's just, if the traffic going in and out of the parking lot does not have to cross in front of all the pedestrians that are walking in and out of the parking lot, that the pedestrians walking in and out of the parking lot only have to deal with the people who live on the road, we would all be aware that there is a crosswalk. People who live on the road would know there's a crosswalk there. The people that are coming in and out of this current in and out, then they come up and cross the road. Now you're crossing people that are using it. If you could reverse those people would be now walking across, and all the traffic going in and out of the parking lot would be avoiding all your, again, I look at that as, say, you know, that's like, thank you very much.
Any other public questions?
Have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I get you this.
Out 59 Pump Road. Now that we know where the entrance to this is going to be, is this going to have any effect on the cars coming off of Route 15 and waiting for people to come out of there, or to let people off so that they don't have to walk that whole way? Is this plan going to fix that problem, which is probably one of the biggest safety problems, is cars being backed up onto Route 15? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi there, I have a question. I'm on Zoom.
Hold on. Why don't you, I don't know who's speaking. You gotta introduce yourself. You gotta be a little bit more formal than just jumping in, please.
Sure. Dan Tomato, live at 41 Old Pump Road. I live directly next to the Palmer Lane business. I think on the site map it still listed as an old LLC 3 pump, but that is my address, 41. There was a comment from the engineer, and this is kind of a question towards him, and you can field it, take however you want from it. Question about adjusting the grade of the driveway, of leaving and entering the ramp. His statement was around that exiting and entering would not cause a problem for the house across the road. Well, it is my house, so I was just curious if he's actually taken any walks or taken a car, driven down there, driven up with his car lights to make sure that it actually wouldn't become a problem. So thank you.
I ask one more question. It's very quick. It's a question of where something is. My kind of measure of where things are is there's a telephone pole that's across from Dan's house, and wondering which side, where the telephone pole is on this map. Is it on the left side of that drive, or is it on the right side of that drive? Because that's kind of like my visual of where things are.
Left.
On the left. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
One question. Beth Davis, 87 Old Pump Road. So I've lived on Old Pump Road, well, for the last time since 1986. And I know, and I submitted some of the photos, that it floods frequently, and sometimes it even floods way above the 215 line. I've seen it flooding in the brush right by the edge of Old Pump Road across the street from me. So I know it floods. And I don't really think Mother Nature pays attention to where lines are on a map, especially with all the evidence showing it differently. But I wondered how has the engineer taken into consideration all the runoff that's going to come from that parking area every time it rains and it floods? It's all gonna go into the river. So I don't think that's been addressed at all. So if that's there and it's impermeable, which to me sounds like a terrible idea, because it's just going to pool there and it's not going to be absorbed, but where is all that grease and oil and salt? And is there a way to restrict, if this is approved, is there a way to prohibit sanding or salting of that area? Because that's going to go running off right into the river. Because we know, even though FEMA doesn't know, we know it floods all the time. Thank you.
Look like anybody online's got a question.
Okay, can you take us through, we'll kind of go through these backwards, the discussion about runoff for this property, where it is, it's seasonal, so it wouldn't really be, it's not gonna be salted and sanded, but.
No.
Why don't you have to just come up so we can get it on the mic for the minutes, please. Responsive, thank you.
So we brushed on this a little bit, putting in treatment systems, but because we don't necessitate a stormwater permit, because it doesn't meet the threshold for a permit at 0.5 acres. We're not creating any depressions, and I brush on that a little bit about, whether we should or shouldn't, because we know it's a flood prone area. So if we create depressions to create more volume, which we'd be willing to do, pretty much told that we should. So as far as sand and salt, we don't anticipate, because we're not really going to use it really in the winter. I mean, there might be a few events like we were talking about, but essentially it's really going to be pretty dormant in the winter. As far as runoff and stuff goes, because we don't need to put in a treatment system, I mean, there's going to be a little bit more runoff. But essentially, if the state determines that we don't need a permit, the only thing we can do is offset it by, lowering the grade. And that's really going to address, the floodplain issue. I understand what Jim was saying about the floodplain, but when water backs up, it's strictly like a volumetric calculation. So when we saw that field, those photographs, talked about this with the owners and the new owners, like there's going to be times maybe every 3 or 4 years that people are going to get a creamy and won't be able to use that parking lot. We're going to see that happen.
Okay. Can you show this 612 map? You have those to show.
At 2011, I remember Hurricane Irene here. Unfortunately, I saw coffins out of the ground. There's some things that you see that you can't unsee. Some pretty ugly stuff.
So this map, the blue line is the 612 line, is that right?
No. That's determined to be the flood zone 80. So really, that's like an area that we really shouldn't be messing around with in the blue area. So it's not the actual. The 612 comes onto us. There's also a 611, and it just, that zone 80 doesn't protrude as far through the parking lot. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but Essentially, there's low-lying areas further north on, if let's say north is straight up on that plan. All the low-lying areas, are more geared towards, obviously going towards the river, north or east, northeast. So that's where, that blue AE zone is the flood zone. So we're out of that to the south.
This isn't a river corridor or really the 612, but this is another designation.
Yes, it's another designation. It is sort of elevation driven. Because like I said, we have a 611 on our plan. It shows on our plan a 611. So we actually go below that. Essentially what we're trying to.
I didn't mean to add more confusion.
We're gonna, yeah, it is gonna add more confusion. It is definitely gonna add more.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Can we talk about the grade of the ramp? We had a question
Wait,
about.
Chris, can you zoom in on that?
This is,
No, I'm sorry. I thought that was a 612.
There was the map that was shown for the very first in the beginning of the meeting was more clear about where that 612 line was. I don't know the name of it.
Right.
It's that.
that's the map of the bush.
I mean, the best thing to do is if I had.
Even that one shows is more clear representation of where the 612 line goes through the parking lot.
I think it was number 4.
Right, you can see the 612 line and where it is before the parking lot's built, right?
Yeah,
That's
but it
what that
goes
shows.
all through the parking lot.
Yeah,
parking lot is in the flood zone.
Yeah. So
and then it goes, it goes below
it goes down, you can see it's all through there.
This is the 612 mark right here.
Right, so everything below that is the parking.
And there's lots of 612 lines there.
Oh,
That's
612
line.
that's 612.
612 line.
I don't know if I'll be able to clarify this, but
Here's the 612 line.
that's actually a 611. But so what we're doing is we're actually like that 611, the flow is a foot lower. It's actually heading towards the plan left, if you will, looking at that plan. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna just honor the natural grade. So if you just didn't look at any contours and you staked out that parking lot, we are literally gonna dig 14 inches of the natural grade, take it out, and put 12 inches back in. We're gonna honor the natural grade. That is the intent of this plan. That's why there's no finished grade contours anywhere except for the ramp. I don't know if that helps the board or everybody understand, but that's why there's no finished grade calculation. That 611 is gonna be 610.8 when we get done.
And how are you gonna know where the contours are once you start digging? Aren't they just gonna fill it in and make it level?
No, we're gonna honor the natural grade.
Stop for this. So let me just ask a question. So if it's at 611, that would be lower than the 612 maximum flood level, right?
Right.
That's this area here.
But we're only taking it down proportionately to the natural grade. So we're not altering the floodway, we're honoring the natural grade.
So that 611 is just a very small portion right
Yes.
there.
And that will be 610.8 when we get done. That will be the low spot. That will be where it starts to pond.
But 612 is the other one.
Yeah, why are they doing it below the 612 line?
We're only adding gravel to the natural grade. We're not altering the sort of lay of the land.
That was my, I guess, I don't understand. Are you putting part of the parking
Yeah.
lot in the 611 area?
Yes,
Well, the environmental court has already held, you can't do that. You cannot add land to a level that is already floodplain and bring it up above the
We're
floodplain. That's
not-
res judicata.
I think that's the part here. I don't know if I can explain it, but we're not raising the grade. We're gonna lower that grade actually.
So you're starting at 611 and you're gonna lower it, or you're starting at
Yes.
612?
All that grade is gonna be lower 2 inches.
Why are you allowed to lower it below the FEMA flood line? Why are you allowed to put the parking lot in below the FEMA flood line is my question.
Because we're offsetting the area of the ramp that we're increasing the volume. And we're offsetting that by removing in other areas. So that we can build a parking lot to below the natural grade to account for the 90 cubic yards that the ramp's going to create.
Okay, you can't
Thank you.
have back and back, but.
I'm sorry, I mean, I'm just trying to
Yep,
answer the questions.
Can we go over the grade of the ramp?
Yeah.
At the rate for the ramp.
If you go to sheet 4, it's show the profile 3%. That's
Not say the pedestrian ramp.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
which one?
With a question on what the grade of the pedestrian ramp was.
So
And if
that's,
there was-
hold on one second. So
And whether that met an accessible ramp.
I don't think we want ADA like handicap. I mean, I don't want to be proper, but I talked about the dam, and that question was asked, and you know, we don't want anybody in a wheelchair to have any problems. Like we got a designated parking spot by the barn. We don't need people to traverse or, you know, go that far if they want to get a creamy. Like we're gonna put them right by the barn, and we're gonna have a handicap
Don't
spot.
keep people, how many handicap spots are there up there?
Dan, is there 1 or 2 signs right now? Or Paul? Is there a handicap sign on the
Yeah,
barn
there
now?
is.
We don't have any right now.
Okay, we're gonna put them on.
You can put one, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want people to have to go that far if they're any, you know, if they got issues, like we want them to be right by the barn, right by the building, you know, want them even have to cross the road. I mean, that's the whole purpose of having a couple spots on the south side there, south point side of the, right by the building.
Stu.
Okay. And so if the proposal was to allow that to be open for the winter, on the above side, how would it be controlled for the summer? So that people weren't parking in those winter spots? They have a,
Staff's recommendation based, because this gets closed off. So any parking or that issue goes away
okay,
year round. That's my recommendation. So
okay.
We talked about, I mean, we talked about boulders in the report, so if we wanna have something, that discussion, it's up to you. Whatever.
yeah, I mean, the discussion's been basically placing boulders on the edge of the road right away.
And we had one more
Wait,
question.
what part of the, where would boulders be?
All along that side there.
Basically,
Just where the parking was.
Yeah,
this area
And beyond.
here
Wait,
and continuing down.
Okay. And we had one question about the positioning of the crosswalk. And why the crosswalk was chosen for that position.
So if you zoom out a little bit, we purposely angled it, so it's essentially like pointed right at the facility.
So that we don't cut in front of don't have to go up in front of other cars.
Yeah,
Right.
and we wanna segregate.
I think we discussed it.
Pedestrian traffic from the view.
Yeah, keep pedestrians out of the roadway, which has been a big safety concern, and dump them directly to where they need to go.
Right.
Well, they kind of answer the question with regard to that, with regards to sealing and sulfating, the answer to Steve's question with regards to moving it, Dan, 41 Old Pump. You know, I wanted to know, since he lives directly across, you know, how he's not going to be, impacted, by the access, so, I guess, or you can do that one, if you have a response, so.
So we talked about, you know, headlights being the main sort of cause of interference, and we're honoring the sort of daylight hours, talked about that with Paul Palmer, and you know, we feel like we're not gonna be shining headlights because we're not operating in the dark, so that really shouldn't have, you know, impact for the glare and stuff. That won't have impacts to the glare because we're operating under the daylight hours. The business is open really during the day.
I think we should also acknowledge,
It's open,
Open till 8:30.
it's open right now. It's dark out.
But
That's gonna change, right? It's condition.
That condition, yeah. You're cutting your hours back?
it just,
I don't know, Paul, do you want to speak about
I mean, all I can tell you is what we've done in the past. You know, there are new owners, they can choose to adjust hours as they see fit. Within 2 weeks from now, like September, mid-September, we pared our hours back to 7:30 because it's not busy at this time of night. Like if you went there now, you'd probably see 3 or 4 people there. right? I mean, it's getting cooler out at night, people are hanging out, it's a much lower volume. And, you know, you're just not gonna have the same traffic flow.
I mean, certainly don't think that, you know, I can't speak for Dan because I didn't talk about this ahead of time, but the light glare was an issue, but I'm pretty sure that, you know, we would work to address it if that was a concern. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dan.
The first part was what?
I mean, the headlights glaring across the street, like if you change your hours and
Yeah,
that
right,
person
yeah.
had an issue with light glare, like we would address that.
Yeah, kind of just what Paul was referring to, just trying to, if it needs to happen, then it's based on a certain specific day, then, you know, we're happy to work with everybody. Work with team
Does that make sense?
and neighbors.
And then I think Mr. Albright had a question about the why, about shifting that parking, that line onto the leased land if they are already parking there. And
I think, I mean, the only.
the answer is, I think the answer is, you know, you're guilty once doesn't allow you to do it again, right? It
Well-
doesn't allow you to go put a permanent road onto some land you've already leased to you.
So, I mean, I can address that is, you know, we've been in discussions with Ed and Frank Bunterfovich about the use of the land. You know, and they've been great about allowing us to use that parking along the road. And we did go back to them and say, hey, could we bump this to the right, closer to Route 15? And, you know, it's really based on what they will allow us to do, right? And they came back and said, we'd rather you not. So we've got to honor what we're allowed to do with somebody else's property.
Thank you. All right.
And I don't want to jump in.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in
Jeff?
for a second. Jeff.
Yeah.
I just say a couple things. I'm Von Turkovich. I'm Frank Von Turkovich's
Doesn't he have
partner.
to sit in the special chair?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. All this over a creamy, right? We've owned the property where the post office is for 40 years now. When the Palmers came up to us and discussions I had a little bit with Chris about the problems that they had with parking, we said if there's any way we can help, we'd be happy to help. We're not receiving any kind of payment in terms of for the property. And just recently, I was just traveling a lot more in Waitsfield and down in Pomfret, and Jericho is just like a lot of these other little towns that are in other parts of the state where parking is a problem at times, and people have to figure out how they're going to work with it. But it's part of the fabric of our communities, you know, where we work together to try to solve a problem. I'm hopeful that in this particular case, that the creamy stand, we're talking about a creamy stand, you know, if there's a way that we can make this work for everyone, we're happy to participate by allowing people to access our property. So in any event, I just wanted to make sure I had a chance to introduce myself. I've met some of you before over the years, but you know, in other communities, it's harder to find a solution. Here we have one. If it's something that will work for you folks and you can use the parking area, we're happy to have you do it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Can I ask you a question? I just had it's a procedural, legal question. That's 4-lot subdivision, right? You did 4.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think what we did is we subdivided 3 or 4 lots off of Old Road.
Yeah, you did 2 lot, you did lot 2 and 3, where the parking lot is. And those were approved for house lots.
That's correct.
And the state approved them in 2004. Triol Consulting Engineer, I see the plan right here. So those are house lots. So just to keep this clean, are you gonna voluntarily
They're not, let's put
vote?
they're lots. They're not designated
Well,
as house lots.
that's what I'm asking. I mean, what did we approve them for in 1998?
We approved them as a subdivision as lots.
Just lots.
So basically, in the zone district, whatever use is allowed in that district can occur on that lot.
Okay, so there's a state permit for houses there, so he can voluntarily revoke that if he wants anytime, so.
It's his property, he has 4 lots he gets to use. He gets to figure out what he wants to do with his property on those lots, as long as it matches up with the zoning from a municipal
I
standpoint.
didn't know what was approved in
Act
98.
50, we're not gonna really talk to that because it's not our ball of wax. They gotta go to Act 50, they can have that discussion.
So we didn't approve it, they weren't approved for anything specific, just lots.
They're approved as lots.
Okay.
Just like every other subdivision, yeah.
And we did have one other question that was thought about, doing a site visit and, we'll discuss that at, the board. Deliberative.
And the staking out.
Yep.
The perimeter. I also asked about the safety, if this addresses the safety of people coming off Route 15 and stopping and letting people off. And
We talked about the fence going up, so there'll be a fence there. And,
that's not what I'm talking about, the automobiles, not the people.
right, but there won't be a way to stop, there won't be a way for people to get, there'll be less people getting off if there's a fence there. Right, I'm
There
sorry.
may be more people stopping to let people off so they don't have to walk, but before they go down. Yeah. Before they go down. I'm just asking, does this address that at all? Or will that still remain a problem? So.
You're dealing with people.
Could there be enforcement? It's a legitimate question because it's a safety issue right now. The traffic can get backed up onto Route 15. Where people are making a left-hand turn onto Old Pump Road and.
The traffic discussion, I believe we closed last time.
Okay.
Today's.
Well, I know, but you were talking about the drive is new, right? That's part of this discussion. So now that we know where the drive is, I'm asking, does that address the safety problem?
You're still dealing with people. I don't know how unless you have a police officer there making sure they don't stop.
That would work for a while. Give out tickets. People would learn. But people now stop to avoid parking 100, 50 yards down. People stop on Old Pump Road to let out the wife to get the ice cream, and they leave in their car running right from the.
Come on, this day and age, is it really the wife? It's not the husband?
Come
on now.
Yeah, I watched this all the time. Anyhow, I was whatever. But that happens. So imagine there's going to be a lot of people getting out of the car to avoid going down the bank into the low parking lot. So the ingress and egress and pedestrian traffic is still an issue.
Because people, I don't know.
Okay,
Well, the answer is no then. Right? If it doesn't change that.
I don't see anything well. No idea. Not a traffic person, I can't tell.
And that pedestrian crosswalk is about 120 feet from the intersection.
Pretty far
It's
back.
pretty far back.
It's pretty far back there, right? So,
So that's, all the cars are gonna line up right there to avoid walking down to the parking lot.
To me, it's gonna exasperate it.
okay. We ready to close?
Yes.
Where we can egress,
No. Nobody online with anything further.
so you're ready to close.
Am I ready?
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter to me. It's you're the board, you guys.
Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and close this part of the meeting tonight. We have 2 other items. We'll take a minute. For people to don't want to stay.
Thank you to everyone for coming in.
Thank you. Are you?
Nice to meet you, sir. Public hearings could close the board will run it decision.
Probably not tonight.
We'll be going to deliberation whether they reach a decision or not.
Deliberation will be on this. All right.
Deliberation will be on the whole public hearing and all the applications, so. And they could, by law, they need to make a decision within 45 days of closing. So traditionally, what you have is. We celebrate hours. If they make a decision, it's going next.
Yeah, I think for John.
Thanks.
Well, John, they got them all warmed up.
Yeah.
The
restroom.
The stove.
Yes.
I see you back.
I'm safe. They take care of something.
I know.
Right.
5 seconds.
Yeah, but that's kind of like.
Oh, well.
So when will we put Phil to get back?
I don't know.
And Andrew, one thing.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, I don't know, I just think some people don't want it to happen, that's what I think. But you can get into a lot of minutia if you want to. But I think it's an improvement, better than it is now. What do you say? Yeah, I don't know. I'm a tolerant person myself.
It was pretty good. That little concept of like, it's pretty crazy there sometimes.
Yeah, signs are good too. People need to be heard sometimes.
Not sure. I never wrote them 42 times. You can't read them all, so.
Yeah.
Okay, John, why don't you, come on up? Well,
Next item is John Barnard on the final plat review at 16 to 18 Snipe Island Rd.
just to give the board orientation, this lot here, this area here is 16. It has an existing structure on it. This lot here is 18. It has another existing structure where John resides. John owns both properties. So there's a one driveway curb cut that comes in to access John's property as well as the other property. And what John's proposing is basically his applications for a PUD in this area, which allows lots as small as a half an acre. He's proposing right now an acre. John did mention to me that he is in discussion with a potential buyer and they may want to adjust the acreage up to a bigger lot. That's, doable and allowable. One thing that will end up happening is 50% of the overall acreage will be conserved via the open space requirement for the PUD. John began this discussion in 2010 with the DRB. Basically, he went through the process and the DRB said, get us a more formal plan as well as a plat. We had a quick discussion with the DRB on this with regards to continuation. We warned it as a new hearing because of the duration. This is the application that's in front of you. That's sort of the overview. I guess, John, if you want to add anything to it or any comments, you can tell them about the property, things along those lines. I guess feel free to do so.
Well, it really doesn't change. From the row of looking at it, you're not going to see any change whatsoever. You can see where the boundary is between, along the road, where, the lots are. And if you see the boundary between the two lots at the road,
In this area?
Right there, well, right there.
Yeah.
It cuts right across, of course, you don't see it, but it cuts right across, what is a large field right there, and I'll lose 2/3 of that field if I sell it with 10 acres. And I've been there for 55 years, so I kind of, it kind of ruins the place for me. But
That's the field there.
yeah, there's the field right there, yes. And, you know, that's, and the other thing is this way, there's no easement for my driveway going up to my place.
So there will be a second driveway.
Well, this lot, if this lot is approved and created, it'll have the ability to, apply for a curb cut. So currently it's used as one common driveway, and whether John works that out with the existing owner, that it stays that way, or the person asks for the one, those would be handled separately.
There are the well and septic for that 1 acre house already owned within that 1 acre.
Yeah,
There's already 2 driveways.
all right, okay.
And is for that, within the house you have on the 1 acre, that house is the septic and water and well for that house within that 1 acre?
There's the well right there.
Yep, and it's, the leach field is on, right in front of the house, between the road and the front of the house.
Okay, so it's on that lot.
Yeah.
And then the other part of it, which is, you know, if that one fails, there's another part that comes up through, perpendicular to the road. It's like an auxiliary
Replacement area.
replacement. And it was it's an engineered system.
Okay. And how much land are you going to set aside as a conservation easement on out of the total?
50%.
And where is that on the map?
It's currently not shown on the map, but it will be reflected on the plat.
It's got that in it.
The intent is in this area here, John's talked about
Yeah.
conserving this area.
There's no limitations on PRDs starting at X number of lots, right? And you can do 2, 3, 4, whatever. Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't see why it shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
PRDs at 2 lots.
But technically, the town doesn't have PRDs, we have PUDs, but it's the same thing.
Any other questions from the board? Chris, anything else you have to?
No, we haven't. I think basically, speaking with John, if approved, the plat will reflect, where the open space is. I guess the only thing that John did bring to my attention was, the possible expansion, of the new lot, above 1 acre, if the prospective buyer and John, come to, an agreement. So if the board is amenable, then we would develop some form of condition or finding that lot may increase, which is allowable in the PUD as long as we still conserve 50%. And that 50% will be reflected on the plat as well as in the developed deeds for the new properties. So I think it's, he's got a little bit of a moving target, which sometimes we don't really like, but it's moving in the right direction and it's easy to manage. It could satisfy his needs as well as the potential buyer or his new neighbor.
And
He's
then
waited 15 years.
how long between our decision and when you need to see the final?
It's 180 days for the signing of the decision. So I assume 180 days, if you get an approval, you can get the Mylar taken care of and the deeds and.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Open it up to any public comments, questions? Anybody online? Didn't expect any.
I'd like to make a comment. My name is Herbert Neal. I actually own the land on the left corner there. And this is a classic example of why 10-acre zoning doesn't fit. It shouldn't even exist. If a 1-acre parcel is adequate for well and septic, there shouldn't even be a question of how many parcels you can put on whatever. If the land is suited for the septic and the other overlays, then 10-acre zoning was a number that was picked out of the air, and it should not exist anymore. It doesn't fit all this need because road frontage and the number of lots is basically preventing developments like this without jumping through hurdles. It is perfectly good use for this property, and I think that if some real estate agent from somewhere else said, "Oh, everybody wants a larger lot," well, let them buy it. You know, it's that simple. If they want, we shouldn't be restricted to a 10-acre parcel in some areas and 1-acre parcels or 3-acre parcels, depending on where the line happens to fall. And I think it's time that the town did away with 10-acre zoning and went to something fair, like if the state has a tax program called current use, which is let's say
The planning.
doesn't work.
Planning commission are the folks you want to be.
Well, I know I'm speaking to the wrong group, and I've already spoken to the planning commission about this issue, but if I don't say something, it's not gonna get heard. And that's, this is a classic example of why 10-acre zoning is unnecessary and it doesn't fit. And I think, and the road frontage of 400 feet is also excessive. It doesn't need to happen. Multiple uses of the same driveway are the best use of the property. And as long as an agreement with the people that are owning the land that they're building on. Thank you.
Thanks. For a PUD, it's I think it's 100. It's less. Yes.
All right, any other comments? All right, I'll close this part then. Thank you very much. We'll, we have 45 days to make a decision. It will be, sure it'll be quicker than that.
What the board will do is they'll deliberate, and they could possibly vote on it tonight. When I take it, reduce it into a decision. That decision gets refined and then it gets released, and then when it's released, your 180 days start. So you can give me.
So it's not gonna be a decision tonight, but.
But there could be a decision, but the actual written decision, it's gonna take a few days.
That's it.
So.
Very good. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thanks, Sean. You know where to reach me. I'm in tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The next item we already need is request by Martha Fritz for a plat review at 150 Lee River Road.
Let me get
In the village zoning district. Oh. Sorry to make you wait so long. Thank you for being patient. All right. You ready to roll?
I'm just gonna pull up, yeah. Oops, any particular planning lot?
Just the,
The plat? Or the site plan?
yeah, bring up site plans, that's it. There were comments on last time. So my name's Doug Hewitt, I'm from Horizons Engineering, and I'm representing Martha Prince, who's also here, who's the owner. And we're back for final approval of this 2.7 acre parcel with a single family house and a septic system, everything on site.
So for the board standpoint, this is the proposed lot here being carved out of the larger lot here.
It's got a right of way across the neighbor.
Yeah.
And Martha's also maintaining a path between the two lots. So the new lot will have the 60-foot wide right of way, 60-foot wide right of way across the Smith lot. And then across her, that channel that she owns, and then have 120 feet of deeded right of way for the road frontage. So from the last hearing, the two things of note were, you wanted to see the clearing limits, and so I've added some practical clearing limits that are shown there for the house. And then there was also discussion of impact to the wastewater system by the potential for access down that corridor. And so I've added a 10-foot protection buffer that whatever is there for access just has to be 10 feet off the end of the leach field. That's just a state regulation that you can you basically build a driveway within 10 feet of an in-ground system.
How much space does that leave?
It leaves probably about half of the width of that, which is 60 feet, so it's about 30 feet. At this point, Martha doesn't have any intention of, other than, driving tractors or, there's not any intention for building of a driveway, but if she wanted to, there's gonna be room to do it.
And the land over there, that last 30 feet it's
Over where?
where that last 30 feet, there's the grades and the terrain would allow you to bring a tractor through there.
Yeah, it's not steep. All those are 1-foot contours.
Okay, thanks. Didn't want to create a situation where in practicality, they were driving over that other person's. Over and over again. We saw this last time and I don't remember a lot of discussions about it.
We were here for sketch plan last time. So.
Yeah, I mean, the cutting limit was the one thing.
Yeah, and so I
took
a stab at it.
The only thing I can think of is that on the filing of the plat is, and I don't know if the plat shows cutting limits or not, but the board may say, superimpose those on, just so it's part of the recorded Mylar.
Yeah, our next step we expect is 180 days to set the corners and record a plat. So we can make any.
Optimistic.
That's. Yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
Okay. Chris, do you have any other questions?
No, I just made my statement. They confirmed with it. Other than that, I've gotten all the information that I need with regards to the application.
Oh, any questions, any public comment questions for this plan? Anyone online? No? From JAS?
I'll move to close. You want to
All right.
go that way?
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for waiting
Thank you.
Well,
and not being contentious.
What that?
And not being contentious.
Who, me?
No, I don't.
So the last thing is just the minutes from July 9th. Here we
I'll
go.
move that those minutes be approved.
Oh, that's a high level. That's a high standard. Well,
second that.
That's it.
There we go. Matt seconded. Okay, now we can go.
moving today.
aye. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Everyone, sir, good, you.
Oh, you'll be fine.
Don't think it's gonna be fun.
What
All right.
You'll be fine.
So we're gonna officially close the meeting at 8:44.
Give them a few days, yeah. We'll let you
You
know.
can, see,